Welcome to Astrology Land. My name is Michael Erlewine, and I've been studying and practicing astrology for something like 50 years now. In fact, here's a photo of the Heart Center Astrological Library, where I have been the curator for many years. This is probably the largest library of its kind in the world. In this series of short videos, I will present some key astrological concepts in what I hope for you is an easy-to-understand format. At the end of the video, I will point out where you can find many free ebooks on astrology, or even get a personal star types report written by yours truly. Now let's get started. I'd like to talk about something that I think is really important for astrologers to understand. How did we stop being astronomers? And correspondingly, how did astronomers stop doing astrology? We read in history books that in 1543, Nicholas Copernicus published a book. In that book, he asserted that, unlike what we always thought, which was that everything, all planets, including the sun, revolved around us, our Earth. In fact, the Earth orbits the sun. The Earth revolves around the sun. The sun is the center of everything, not the Earth. Well, this was like heretical. This was almost like blasphemy, or it was looked at really closely. But it did cause a huge schism, a split between astronomers and astrologers. Up to then, most astronomers were astrologers, and all astrologers were astronomers, or most all. But after that point, it was the astronomers that said, okay, I'll take the traditional geocentric chart that we've always had, but now I have this new heliocentric chart. I'm going to use both of them. And they did, and have. And of course, putting men on the moon and things on the Earth takes both charts. It takes the geocentric Earth perspective, and it also takes the perspective of the solar system with the sun at the center. But for reasons not known to me, I would love to see a book on this. Astrologers did not accept. Maybe they gave lip service to it. Maybe they intellectually accepted it. But they never used the heliocentric chart. I can tell you that because when I came up, there were no heliocentric ephemeris, or the only ones that did appear were year by year in the American Ephemeris and Nautical Almanac. I was the first person to publish a wide-ranging 400-year ephemeris that was accurate for heliocentric positions. Now that's not such a big deal. What's a big deal is that how did we ever manage not to have that knowledge? And it's so easy to fall into materialism and think, well, we just didn't use the heliocentric chart, but there's so much more to the heliocentric chart than just the materialistic scientific calculations of the planet positions. There's a whole initiation and life that comes from, and discovery that comes from understanding the helio perspective, not thinking that everything revolves around us, not thinking that the Earth is the center of the solar system, but the sun is the center. Astrologers have yet to accept this. They haven't used the heliocentric chart in what it is, 468 years and counting, as I point out. The upshot is that we as astrologers have an enormous possibility of having that experience, that maybe we're 500 years late in realizing that everything doesn't revolve around us. But it doesn't mean that we should continue that ignorance any further. It's time that astrologers are able to use more than one chart. And the amazing thing for me is that Before I used 2 charts, and I actually use a number of charts now, I only had that one chart, that traditional geocentric chart. That's the only thing I knew. But the moment I had a cross perspective, the moment I had both a geo and a helio chart, each was looking at the same moment in time, the same exact planets, but from different perspectives. And where those perspectives intersect or triangulate, you get what I call like a 3D image of yourself. You see yourself from different perspectives. And as I think I pointed out earlier, there's a wonderful jazz song by a jazz singer named Les McCann, and it's called Compared to What? That's what I say to my fellow astrologers. Geocentric chart by itself, the traditional chart, compared to what? If you have nothing to compare to, you have no perspective. The moment you introduce the helio chart, you have a perspective. The geocentric chart represents, as it always has, with its moon and its houses and its ascendant, the persona, the personality that we have, the outer circumstances in which each of us are embedded and live, just like the Earth is embedded in the solar system. But the heliocentric chart represents the system as it actually is, as it functions in space. And the center of the sun is literally more central than the Earth. There's an initiation. I'm talking about a spiritual initiation that you can have. In my case, it literally changed my life. I had a completely different and more inclusive idea of who I was. And that flip never returned. I never came back. That means before the limited geocentric perspective that I had of myself, once it was illuminated by the heliocentric, I never came back to that. That was just, for me, through a glass darkly way of looking at myself. Nothing was lost. I lost nothing by having a wider perspective. And so that is why I encourage people to consider using more than a single chart, but also looking at a heliocentric chart. And I think that's probably enough for now. Well, that completes one concept, something for you to think about. Now, where to go from here? For those of you interested in learning more, I can suggest several resources depending on your time and interest. First, I have a free ebook that I wrote on star types that introduces these concepts. The book runs 753 pages and contains 230 full-color illustrations done by me. It goes into great detail on star types and how to use them, and it can be downloaded as a PDF file for free here. Second, for those of you who are not comfortable with reading ebooks, most of my books are available in paperback format on Amazon.com, although of course they have to be purchased. You can find them by searching for Michael Erlewine or by title. And last but not least, for those of you who are not astrologers or don't have the time or interest in studying astrology, I've written several personal star type reports, readings based on your birth date and year. In putting these reports together, I've done exactly what I would do if you and I could sit down for an astrology reading and look at your chart together. And you don't need to know any astrology to read these reports. They contain no astrological jargon and are direct and to the point. Star type reports are about your personal star type and your particular life path or direction. And I've had a lot of fun designing a series of astrological image cards for each of the star types to make them easier to remember. These reports are available online instantly and can be purchased 24/7 in easy-to-read PDF format at this link.